Well, I've officially broken my 3-day fast, and the last 17 hours of that fast were pretty dang rough, but everything up until that point was pretty good, pretty solid. I felt like I could go for longer than that at one point. It's like, man, I could go longer than 3 days. I think I could. And then the last 17 hours hit, and the body aches were insanely rough. And I had some very odd visions last night before bed. And it was like my spirit was operating fully in the spirit realm. I could literally feel my spirit body and my physical body within me, but also separate. It was a very peculiar experience. But no matter, we made it through and making it happen. So this video, I want to discuss how people are going to be intimidated by you because you're uncontrollable and because you're untamable. And people don't really like other people that are uncontrollable or untamable, even if you're not necessarily doing wrong. You're just not in the control of Satan's minions. And the depleted Coomers don't want to see it. The normies don't want to see it. The promiscuous women don't want to see it. Pretty much any man or woman that yearns for status and control is going to look at you just doing your thing as literally an insult to what they are. Not who they are, what they are. Because toxic people value what they are more than who they are. Okay? And people that are actually empathetic, people that are actually have some grounding to themselves and understand what it's like to really have compassion, they know who they are and they value who they are. They know that what you are doesn't really matter too much. And because I'm not necessarily talking in these videos, I'm not talking to what you are, right? I'm talking to who you are. And that's what I'm trying to get at in these videos is I'm not trying to talk to what anybody is. And that's why they're going to be intimidated by you. These people are going to be intimidated by you because you are somebody that knows who they are, knows what they're about, and are going to stand on principle one way or another. And sure, maybe not everybody's going to agree with your principles or your ideals that you're striving to attain and excel in, but that's not really your problem. And it's not necessarily that you should force other people to hold up to your standards or ideals either. That's what God is for. God is here to ensure that we're going to follow the law, statutes, and commandments, and there's going to be consequences if we don't. We don't need to necessarily take justice and vengeance into our own hands all the time, because even in the Bible it says, vengeance is the Lord's. So we have to think about how we're going to operate and how we're going to move. And some people are just going to be intimidated by you. And, I was at the gym this morning and I was feeling the effects from the fast pretty heavily. And I barely made it through the workout. I didn't even do much. I just walked on the treadmill for about 25 minutes at a slight incline, not even a really solid incline, but just a slight incline of like 5%. And then I did some pull-ups, some dips, some push-ups, and some ab work. And that was pretty much it. I stretched a little bit, but that was it. And I was only there for maybe about an hour and 20 minutes compared to my usual 2.5 hours or so. And so it was just very, very much different. A much different vibe anyway. It was very busy today as well. But something I noticed is that the women that were around me, even though it was super busy, it was almost like they were catering to my spirit in a way. Like they would just get out of my way. They would behave as if they're looking at something that they've never seen before when they saw me. And I was the one that just happened to notice them noticing me, because I felt people staring at me through the mirrors and just out and about. So it was very, very peculiar. And then the men were just dropping their heads down as soon as I walked by, or they were just kind of like looking at me in fear. And I thought to myself, what exactly is this? Because this doesn't just happen to be SR that's doing this. This isn't just semen retention. And it reminded me of a verse in Exodus where, when Moses goes down for 40 days and 40, goes up to the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and he doesn't eat bread or drink water or anything. And that's where he wrote the 10 Commandments. Speaking of which, I have no clue how these people did 40 days and 40 nights of fasting. I legitimately don't know. Because after that third day, oh my gosh, I going more than that at this point, I don't know. My spirit is just not, to be honest, my spirit is just not that strong enough yet. I don't think, I think that I'm capable for sure, but it's like I lost another like 5 pounds in the last few days of doing the fast. And from the last fast that I did just a few weeks ago, I lost about 5 pounds as well. And I was able to gain a couple of those pounds back. But in the last couple of weeks, as I was eating a surplus of calories, but holy macaroni and cheese, man. Like, how are you going to do 40 days and 40 nights and be able to walk? I have no clue, because I could barely stand up. I felt like just one of those, I don't know, just standing in place and yet experiencing everything. It was just very bizarre for that last little bit. But anyway, the verse here in Exodus, it says, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid of him come nigh. And so when Moses came down, the skin on his face shone while they talked to him, or while he talked to them. And so he had like the presence of the Most High visible on his face. And this is, I think that the Orthodox Church calls this uncreated light. But I don't necessarily know if that's the correct term, is uncreated light, because it's still created. I think more of a correct term, it's unmanifested light, because it's the kind of, because if we understand anything about physics, right, light is a particle and a wave. So light can be in multiple places at once, and so that's something to think about, right? Is if we are truly interdimensional beings made of light, as really the Bible insinuates, then we are to also make the conjecture that it is possible for us to attain certain kinds of spiritual levels within ourselves that other people will be frightened to see, because it has not yet manifested in the material. It's not necessarily been created, so to speak, as the Orthodox Christians would say, right? So it hasn't been created. It's just this preserved light that's showing. And I think that's what was happening to me at the gym today. And not obviously to the degree that Moses was, but very much so that I could see the people were in fear of me, but they were not necessarily fearful in a negative sense. It's more so that they were fearful of God's presence, because they could feel it. And I mean, if anybody's done a fast more than, I would say, 24 hours, they would have complete understanding of what I'm talking about, because you get to open these spiritual realms that you don't necessarily comprehend until you're there, until you experience that. And I did a very deep meditation yesterday for a while, and the things that I saw in the visions that God gave me, I don't even understand myself just yet, and I'm going to have to meditate on them some more. But you definitely get to a place to where your spirit is just so in alignment with God's will that, man, you can't help but to be intimidation itself in some sense to other people because you're just so on fire for God. And that's what's going to happen to these people that are intimidated by you. And you've got to have the humility and the understanding to not take advantage of that. Because if you do, you're going to lose that spiritual power. It's kind of like, I've mentioned this in an SR video, a scene of intention video before. It's like, if you get to the point to where you cannot handle the power that God's given you, it's going to be like Mentos in a soda bottle. You're just going to explode. You've got to make sure that you have the wherewithal and the environment in which, if things happen, there's a place for it to go. You've got to be able to expand and transmute that energy from that inward place to the outwardness. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for you to really manifest anything. And when I say manifest, I don't necessarily mean wish it into existence, okay? I don't necessarily mean that in the slightest. You have to learn how to think as you're acting in the world and as you're creating as well, because the more you lean into your intuition and your instincts, the more easier it's going to be for you to think with a righteous, clean, level-headed mind. And you want to be level-headed in these instances. You want to be making sure that people are going to be able to see that you're a respectable person and you're not to be trifled with, but at the same time, you are capable of kindness. I don't necessarily think that people should just be kind to be kind all the time, because people sometimes will take advantage of that. But I do not have any issue whatsoever with encouraging you and even me myself to give back to the community in any way that you can. If you have extra stuff, there's no need for you, if you don't need it right away. And if it's gonna, let's say you have extra food or something and you want to give it to some people in the community or something, I don't know, and you have extra food and you want to give it to them, I don't see any issue with that. Giving back to the community, in the Bible it says charity covers a multitude of sins. And what that means is, if you can really give people your time, energy, and service appropriately, then you'll be fine. You'll be given God's grace, and you'll be having grace in His eyes because of the works that you're now doing. And charity can be a form of repentance. And I don't mean charity as in, like, people have such simple minds sometimes when I speak on these kinds of things. It's like, you have to think outside of the box, because anything could be charitable. Let's say, even if you have like a coffee shop business, let's say that you have a coffee shop business and you take the time not only to prepare as a barista or whatever, to prepare the coffee for an individual and a customer, but then you also take the time to talk to them. You take the time to listen to them. You take the time to build a connection. That's something that it's going to be very valuable for both people, because it shows that you actually care and you actually do want to provide a service, and you're there to actually help. You're not there to just be there. And that's what I try to do in my own businesses as well. And even in the Regal Change Academy, I make sure to go above and beyond for the people in there, because I know that they are going through things that I've gone through, and I think it would be ill of me to not try to help them heal and cast out the demons. If I could do that and I could help them do that, then why wouldn't I? Because my niche and my specialty, like over this fast, I watched a lot of cooking shows and such in the evening time, which is kind of ironic because I wasn't necessarily hungry watching them, but I loved watching the artwork. I loved watching them prepare the plate and the artistry of the food, and just how passionate they were about the food, and it really got me interested in wanting to cook more, I guess more higher class, I would say, a little bit more sophisticated, like treat myself to myself. And because I don't eat out anymore, I haven't eaten out since June. And the last time I had caffeine was September of this year. So it's been a while for both of these things. And I just haven't really cared to have caffeine or to go out to eat. I like enjoying and preparing my meal at home. I like the time that it takes to prepare the meal. And a lot of business people will frown upon this because they'll say, just order something out because it'll be easier. You'll save more time to do your work and to make more money. But you'll lose that. You'll lose a little bit of money, but you'll be able to make it up and then some with the amount of time you've given yourself back. And I'm sure that that's possible. However, in my case, I like the value of really knowing how to prepare food and knowing what it's like to make sure that everything tastes well. If the shit really hits the fan, I want to know how to preserve meat. I want to know how to cook the meat properly in case things go awry. Like, not everybody's going to have a personal chef like these Andrew Tates out here or the Justin Wallers or whatever. Not everybody's going to have a personal chef when shit hits the fan and the apocalypse happens, if it does. So, like, you've got to learn certain basic things. And I don't know. That's just my style. That's just my approach. But anyway, I was watching all these cooking shows, and it really just went to show how valuable you can be to yourself. And even that's intimidating to people. If you can just kind of be by yourself, you can be alone and you're all right. You can do your thing. You can be silent and stoic. Man, people will do crazy things to just try to get a reaction out of you. It's kind of nuts, actually. But the whole point of this is just to make sure you go above and beyond. Not for anybody, but for yourself and for the Most High God. And with all that being said, if you do want to join the Regal Change Academy, we do have a free Discord that you can join with a bunch of free resources for meditation and healing, etc., as well as like fitness modules as well. This is also in the Regal Change Academy for the paid community. And in addition to all of those classes and resources and tools that you can do, we also have 2 Bible studies per week, as well as a weekly Regal Assembly call where we just get together and congregate about a variety of different things. So if you're interested in joining a community that you understand your network is your net worth, the paid community is going to be where it's at. We still have a pretty solid community in the Discord group as well, but I think people are taking life a lot more seriously in the Regal Change Academy for the paid community. And I like to see that. I like to be around those kinds of people, and that's the kind of people that I think other people want to be around, especially in times like these where it's so uncertain with how people are going to respond to you. It's good to know that you're going to be in a community that is actually open-minded, that is not going to disregard you just because you ask a question and you don't understand something. And anybody that's like a troll or anything like that, they're excluded from the community, because otherwise, things would happen and it would be like a weed growing in the garden. We don't want weeds in the garden. I also want to, wow, that water really got on my throat there for a second. I also want to thank everybody for moving from the YouTube platform over to the X and the Rumble platform. I appreciate your guys' extra support. And with all that being said, peace be with you all. Till next time.